Good afternoon, everybody. Can you please let me know if you can hear me?
Just fine, Chad. Yep.
Thank you. Welcome to today's webinar Wednesday on ABB's on-demand switchboard program. Your cameras and microphones are turned off to keep things running smoothly. Please post any questions in the chat and we will answer them throughout. This training will be recorded and posted online for future viewing. I'll now turn things over to Dennis Balicki, who will be our host.
Thank you, Chad. Hello again. I'm Dennis Balicki. I'm a senior field application engineer with ABB. I've been covering Eastern Pennsylvania, Delaware, and the South Jersey area for the last 30 years, providing design and technical assistance to a wide variety of engineers and industrials. So again, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us on this Shadler-Jesko webinar Wednesday. Time, especially project cycle time, is a top-of-mind challenge that we are all dealing with in this post-pandemic world we find ourselves in. So today's topic, we're going to focus on what Shadler-Jesko and ABB can do to assist you in two major areas. One is substantially reducing the project cycle time by providing the linchpin piece of equipment for your equipment needs. And number two, allowing you the opportunity to gain a competitive edge in the marketplace. Now, the heart of any commercial or industrial electrical distribution system is the switchboard. If you can't provide power to the downstream or fit out equipment, you can't use the facility. It's that simple. Unfortunately, this linchpin element nowadays has cycle times measured in 3 to 6 times the number of weeks of the downstream equipment it feeds. So having a cycle time of about a year is not unusual for switchboards in this post-pandemic world that we all live in. So really just one of the things to kind of get everybody's interest in this is, what if you could get switchboards in a few weeks as opposed to several months? And would that change the cycle time of your project? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, is the ABB on-demand program using our ReliaGear SB switchboard. So let's talk about the program highlights. First is on-site delivery in 2 to 3 weeks. Second is we have 4 pre-configured designs with flexible breaker settings that allows a lot of different configurations that can meet the majority of distribution needs that you have for the switchboard. And the third is, this is a catalog number driven unit for easy ordering by your Shadler-Jesko representative. So let's look at some of the features. And what I'd like to do, of the 11 features that are listed here, I would like to highlight the 4 that have stars. And when we do look at them, let's look at them through the filter of project plans and specifications or a design narrative. So the first one there is the main horizontal bus of the equipment. It's going to be always copper, and we make 2 varieties rated 2000 or 4000. You may have a narrative or a project that's asking for aluminum. Most people are more than happy to accept copper as an alternative. The second one is the maximum rating of 277/480 with 100K AIC. 100K AIC is probably higher than you need in most of your projects, but again, we're doing this to give us maximum flexibility. And even though the switchboard is rated 277/480, it's still applicable for 122/08 volt applications. So again, a broad market that you can look at when you're trying to fit this particular offering into the job requirements. The third is we're going to be providing a multifunction digital main meter, and I'll go into a little detail on that as we go through the slides. And then the final one is the feeder breakers. All of them are digital breakers, and they all have adjustable long time pickup and delay, short time pickup and delay, and instantaneous pickup. Not only does this give you a lot of flexibility as far as being able to change the range of the setting of the breaker, but also provides you better coordination capability if that is something that is a requirement of the project. So let's look at the four basic configured systems. The first one is a main and feeder section rated 2000 amp. If you find that the number of breakers in the feeder section is insufficient for your project, we have a 2000 amp add-on feeder section that can just be bolted right to the side and extend the number of feeder breakers that you have for the lineup. If 2000 amps is insufficient for your project, we also make a 4000 amp main and feeder section. And then, of course, we also have a 4000 amp add-on feeder section, again, if the number of breakers in the base unit is insufficient for your requirements. Now, we have a 12-page on-demand program document that provides more specifics. And what I want to go through now is the engineering details that are contained in that document, just to kind of give you a feel for the specifics of each one of these four offerings. So the first one is targeted towards commercial construction, campus settings, or an educational facility. This is a 2000 amp switchboard. Catalog number is just what you see there, SWB STS 20A. That is what you order, and this is what you receive. Kind of working left to right, you see some pictorial representations of some of the components that we install in the switchboard. That is the standard multifunction main meter that we would provide in the equipment. There's also a 2000 amp main circuit breaker, insulated case, and then all of the feeder breakers, as I said, are digital breakers, which have adjustable LSI settings. So working our way towards the center of the screen, this is what I would call a summary schedule of the particulars of the protective components. As I said before, from a main standpoint, you'll see it's a 2000 amp frame main. However, you have the ability in the field to adjust that down to 1000 amps. So if your requirement is 1000, 1200, 1600, or 2000, you can meet that requirement of the project just by this one switchboard. It also comes with a RELT switch, which is an ABB reduced energy let through, and that's how we meet the NEC requirements for arc flash mitigation. You can see the feeders there. We provide 10 circuit breakers and 2 spaces for future. 8 of them are 250 amp frame, which can be adjusted in the field from 100 amps all the way up through 250 amps. We also include 2 600 amp frame breakers, which give you an adjustable field range of 240 amps through 600 amps. So in an example where you might be doing a warehouse type of application, where you're basically feeding 10 250 amp frame lighting panel boards, you could set the 250 amp frames all the way up to maximum, and you could set the 600 amp frame down to 250 amp, and that would give you 10 250 amp frame breakers. May not be the most economical, especially with a 600 amp frame, but it will meet the requirements of that particular project. Finishing up over to the right, you'll see there's a top conduit area and a bottom conduit area. This gives you the depth and the width of the overall switchboard setting and what the conduit area open is. At the very bottom right-hand side, you'll see a busing diagram with a little triangle that says provisions for future extension. So that's where, if these 10 circuit breakers do not meet your requirements and you need additional circuit breakers, that's where you would have the second catalog number. And that's this product, the SWB STS 20A disc. And this is an add-on section to the base unit that we just talked about. It's identical to the distribution section that we talked about earlier. So it comes with 10 breakers, 8 of which are 250 amp frame, again, adjustable from 100 to 250, 2 600 amp frame breakers, again, adjustable from 240 to 600. And this would give you a total of 20 breakers for your application, which hopefully will meet your requirements. Well, what happens if 2000 amps isn't enough? I need more power than that. That's when we go to the third catalog number. This is very similar in design concept as the 2000 that we talked about earlier. So I'm not going to repeat myself, but let me just highlight some of the specific differences. One is you're going to get a higher capability multifunction meter that's going to be able to do power quality and total harmonic distortion, as opposed to the standard meter, which we provide on the 2000. Again, the reason is the target market for this is large commercial or industrial, and most of the times those projects require a higher end meter. Along the same lines, one of the changes we make is not only is the main breaker 4000 amp, but it's going to be of draw out construction. Again, this is something that we typically see on large project commercial jobs or industrials, because it's something that they want to have the capability to be able to service the breaker and not have to do anything as far as disassembly. The last thing is the feeder breakers are a little larger because we've got a larger base design. So not only will you get a 250 amp frame and a 600 amp frame, but you'll also get 1200 amp frame. Again, because this is a 2000 amp, it's 4000 amp application. You can kind of see that in the middle section, again, where we're talking about the summaries. You're going to get 3 250 amp frames, 2 600 amp frames, 2 1200 amp frames, which are adjustable from 480 in the field all the way up through 1200. And since it is a 1200 amp breaker and can be field adjustable up to 1200, by the National Electric Code, we're required to provide some sort of arc flash mitigation. So those 2 breakers also come with arc flash mitigation switches, just like the main breaker. Going over to the right, you can see the dimensions and the conduit area. The busing diagram, just like the 2000, has the little triangle that says provisions for future extension. And so if this mixture of breakers isn't sufficient for your 4000 amp application, then you would go to this add-on section, which again, just bolts right up to the side and gives you the opportunity to have 3 more 250 amp frames, 2 600 amp frames. We're providing 2 1000 amp frames as opposed to 1200, because this way we don't have to worry about the National Electric Code requirement for arc flash mitigation. That's why we have the 2 1000 amps, and they can be adjusted all the way down to 400 amps. Now, I realize that even though this product has been around for years, some of you may not be familiar with the construction specifics. So let me highlight some of those details. The first picture you see here is the interior of the distribution section with the dead front shields removed. And you can see the circuit breakers are plugged into the side of the vertical bus stack. If you look at picture number 2, that's kind of looking from below the bus stack view, and you can see how the bus stack is arranged: A, B, and C. In this particular case, top to bottom, but in reality, it would be front to back. And then the third picture is one of the circuit breakers with our line side connector. The way this construction is, it's very similar to plugging a bucket into a motor control center or in a bus plug into a busway stack. It just plugs right in, and there is no mounting hardware. The mounting hardware is integral to the line side connector. So if the catalog numbers meet your project needs, then you're good to go. But what if you still need some other design? You have some other design requirements in the project. Well, that's where you could do some field additions. So additional breakers and accessories can be added post shipment to the base catalog numbers of the switchboards. Now, let me just make this really clear that these are done as separate component catalog numbers. These are not going to be integrated into the factory. They will be shipped separate and they will have to be field installed. But again, given the fact that we have these line side connections with the plug-in module, it's a fairly easy thing to do. So that's the one thing. If you do have to order any breakers or accessories, just make sure that they are ordered with the ReliaGear SB line side connector so that you'll be easily able to plug them into the distribution section. So if you should need other breakers than the ones we've listed, this is the suite of breakers that are available to you. Okay, you can go down to, you can even have 1 or 2 pole breakers if there's some unique requirement for that, all the way up to 100 amp. There's 125 amp, 250 amp, 600 amp, 800 amp, 1200 amp. So all of those breakers can be ordered as separate entities by catalog number, and they can then be plugged into the unit if you have such a need for something beyond the breakers that we've included. The other thing is we do have some accessories, one being an SPD. Now, most of the time when people are in a hurry, they'll probably just use one of the circuit breakers as a feeder to a closely mounted SPD. But we do make a surge protective device that does have the line side connections and can be just plugged in like a circuit breaker, and that will give you an SPD. The other thing is, if you should need to order a 1200 amp breaker and you're going to have some sort of arc flash mitigation requirement, we not only make the circuit breaker that will be 1200 amp, that is a plug-in module, but we also make a reduced energy let-through module that just plugs into the bus stack as a circuit breaker and then has a Molex connector to quickly make the switch active, and it's very easy to add if you had to do that in the field. So let's just talk about the particulars, okay? I just want to be really clear so that we manage expectations. First is the units are built exactly as detailed in the brochure. There's no variation for the 4 product catalog numbers, and the units are stocked in the factory. What's the ordering process? Well, the first is to contact your local Shaler-Yesco representative. They have the ABB and Power program, and they're able to check stock on the catalog numbered units in our factory. The third thing is place your order with your local Shaler-Yesco representative. And the last thing is prepare the job site for immediate arrival of your switchboard. So our concluding points today are, I invite you to explore our 12-page on-demand brochure that has not only detailed drawings of what I walked you through, but also some more information about the on-demand program and the ReliaGear SB switchboard construction. The on-demand program offers 4 pre-configured designs with flexible breaker settings that we went through, and hopefully this will help you gain a competitive edge by substantially reducing your project cycle times. And then the last point is use this reduction in cycle time to gain a competitive edge in your marketplace. And with that, I want to thank you for your time. And if there are any questions, we can open up the mics, or I'm checking the chat. Looks like we're in good shape, but I'll just turn it back over to you, Chad.
All righty. Thank you, Dennis. Is there any questions at this time, or I was checking the chat as well, and seems like we're good there. So if there's any questions, thank you for attending today. If you would like more information on this topic or have any additional questions in the future, contact your sales rep, or you can email us at info@sydist.com. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for your time.